Chris Kelly right here. There's Chris Demm right there. Oh, you're not on it. Sorry. I had my podcast. Sorry. You were off air for a moment because of my podcast settings from yesterday. We recorded.
Oh, they've already caused problems in this room, believe me.
He's right.
And they're not getting better.
He's right.
They're getting worse.
Hello, Biggie, my friend. All you do is
howdy.
You just sit and enjoy your Celsius, and you don't worry about these issues we're having out here.
I could tell there was I could feel the tension in the room.
The reason is once a week I come in with a different broadcast partner, and we do a podcast, a fantasy football podcast that is heard by 4 people, maybe, including the 2 of us. We send it out to our fantasy football league, but we use this equipment. And my partner sits where Chris Demm normally does. And already today, Chris Demm is my headphone volume.
Headphone volume was left way too loud.
Awkward.
Big time. And then he says, why does your podcast partner even need headphones? You're just sitting here talking.
You're just jibber-jabbering.
No, but sometimes I play like quirky audio or, NFL football music, or something.
Is that legal?
That's not legal.
I'm sure not.
You're not licensed for that.
No.
I'm sure you're exactly right. I'm sure we're breaking every law that could possibly be broken. But yes, yesterday we
You don't start with that NFL on Fox music, do you?
I don't know. I don't.
Well, it's fantasy time.
Well, what we do is recaps of our fantasy football league, so we call it podcaps. And we say, it's podcap time.
God.
It's really turned into quite a big thing.
Have you received any feedback from the members of the league?
No, silence. Just silence. One guy said, this is too long. You're going way too long.
Well,
Yeah.
I was going to ask, each week it increases. I believe last week we were up to 41 minutes.
41 minutes.
41 minutes. Because the format is always the same. We dissect a couple of movies. And I'll tell you the reason.
And why do you start with movies?
Well, great. You should ask. Because the league, it was his brainchild. He's a movie guy. He makes movies. Okay, he's a writer of movies, small movies. I was in one for now. He's trying to be big. Anyway, 10, 12 years ago, he had the concept of let's make a fantasy football league, and everybody's team has to be named after a movie. You have to be or some play on words on a movie. I'm going to call it the film league. And, everybody has a love of movies in the league. And so we start our podcast with a dissection, a breakdown of a couple of movies we've recently seen. I did The Shining because I just saw it with my daughter. He did, so I don't remember what he did. State of Grace, which was from 1990. It's an old, a lot of times
seen that one.
Yeah, he'll do ones I have not seen. And then we get into football. So that's the format of it, always.
Can you tell how quickly people fast forward through that? Do you get those, what do they call it, the feedback?
No, I've not seen any.
The metrics?
When you go inside the metrics. I'd like to see a focus group on this thing.
Yeah, let's break it down frame by frame.
See where they start to fast forward.
Well, I thought State of Grace was... And in The Shining, Jack Nicholson... I'm worried about the Bills quarterback. All right, see you next week.
That's kind of how it goes.
What a waste of time.
You don't think that your co-host in this podcast is just using you for the equipment so he can get his own podcast out and going?
Oh, my gosh.
Build his brand?
Yeah, well, because it sounds like he wants to talk more movies than football.
We do a lot of movie talk. It came in at a tight 43 minutes this week. We were up a couple of minutes. Did it a tight 43. And the feedback is...
The difference between the movie and the book, The Shining.
Do you find that might be the case with most podcasts where you're just you're going, I'll tell you what I try to avoid. I've listened to a few podcasts, not that many, mostly on sports, like Broncos, Tar Heels. When I'll come across it, my teams, I'll just come across it. You know what podcasters tend to do is, and usually they're young, and they start by saying like, and they meander for 4 or 5 minutes, like, oh, you got some this and that, and it's like they don't get right to the point, And I said, I told my partner, let's get right to the movie. Let's go right to it. There's no point in us sitting around.
You got State of Grace sitting there. You want to open hard with State of Grace.
Open hard. That's what I said. So let's
hit the ground running.
Let's get right to it. Let's don't sit there and say, well, how's your wife? And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We're not going to get it. I do find that annoying because if I go to a Denver Broncos podcast, I want to hear about the Denver Broncos. I don't care one thing about a hoot and hell about the host and what he's doing with his shoes, or something like that. Some little meandering thing.
But isn't that how, like, the experts would tell you that's how you build your character? And that's why people, because the counter argument would be, you could find Bronco statistics anywhere.
Well, maybe so. Maybe that's
why does one Bronco podcast stand out over the other?
Perhaps.
Exactly.
That could be. I don't know. I just, but for me, because I probably because I'm just an occasional listener of them, I just want to hear what their thoughts are on the Broncos. And then sometimes you think, well, what makes these guys experts on the Broncos?
I think that all the time.
They're just guys.
That's the joy of podcasting, is they can really be done by anybody.
Just Joe Fan?
Yeah, but then when you listen, you're like, who are you?
Yeah, just like me.
Yeah.
You're just like me. You just follow the team. That's all it was. So anyway, there's tension already because of this headphone incident. I didn't have the microphone on.
And your headphones were missing in action.
Isn't this always the way? I got in here early today because since I had to come back and do the podcast yesterday, I did I wrote some put up or shut up and stuff while I was here, just doing that. And so I was ahead of the game today, got in here 4 or 5 minutes early, just sitting. I like to sit, and collect myself before the program starts. And then with 30 seconds to go, it's like, oh my God, I don't have my headphones. And so I had to run down the hall.
You mocked me with my little headphone issue.
Yeah, and then I was like, wait a minute, I don't even have mine. Didn't go. And he also had you missed this, Biggie. Chris Demm had an incident where
I was just drinking some water.
Went down the wrong pipe, and so he's coughing. And so his wife and I always think the same thing. My God, he's choking.
He's dying.
At his advanced age.
It's happening.
I grabbed his arm and started pulling up on it.
You guys had quite a morning.
It's the worst feeling ever when the water goes down the wrong way.
Oh, it is.
And because the first thing you know is, well, that was dumb.
Yep.
And the second thing is I'm going to be coughing for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is my wife thinks I'm dying.
Yes. And sometimes
I'm fine. Are you okay? Yes.
And sometimes it even lasts, like it hurts your throat even later in the day, if you really get it bad.
Yeah.
In there. And so we've had a tough start here. And I told him my brother-in-law now, he gets his esophagus stretched every so often.
You were walking down the hall. I didn't catch all of that. I was coughing. My brother-in-law.
I've actually heard about this.
It was new to me, but my brother-in-law goes in every so often. I don't know how often, and has it stretched.
By what?
A device. I'm not sure how
they put something down your
throat.
They do.
Yeah, because I've heard some people have some type of esophagus issue.
I think it's a reflux that he gets.
Yeah.
Right? And so it shortens over time. He doesn't do his proper maintenance of his esophagus.
Well, who does? What do you do?
I don't know.
Well, I think you're kind of born with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, almost like a narrow esophagus, and that's what they have to do.
Mm-hmm. And
so does he feel like on top of the world the day after?
Yeah.
Or is it sore?
I think it's sore for a few days. But then once it heals, he's drinking Coca-Cola left.
Shotgunning beers.
Yeah, he doesn't care after that. But he leading up to it, if it shortens, he gets terrible indigestion, burps, reflux, all that stuff. So he knows it's time to get it stretched.
What kind of medieval doctor invented esophagus stretching?
Esophageal stretching. I never heard of it until he told me. He said, he was at our house one night, beating on his chest. Time to get the esophagus stretched. I said, can you do what? Can you do
something long and metal?
He did. And so he goes in to get it stretched every, I don't know, 6 months to a year.
Really?
Or something. Yeah, something like that. He goes in and does it.
Well, that's news to me.
I'll tell you another radio host.
Is this the one who had the kidney stone issues?
Oh, yeah, same one.
Same one.
The one that you talk about. Now, he had a tough time with that. He's the one that had kidney stones, and one Christmas, probably 10 years ago now, or more, he felt one on about December 17th, 18th. So he's like, I'm getting some kidney stone issues. And my sister-in-law, who's known for her compassion, said, all right, you get that thing taken care of. You are not going to ruin Christmas. They had young kids.
Mm-hmm. You pee it out or you get it blasted. Now.
I mean,
do it today.
She made that statement. She's like, you are not going to ruin Christmas. I refuse to have you ruin Christmas. So he said, no, I'm going to see if I can pass it. Okay, so the time gets closer and closer. Now we're on like December 21st, and it's excruciating pain. And she goes,
fever.
Yes.
Pain.
And she goes, you better piss that thing, because you are not ruining Christmas.
Drink another gallon of water right now.
Right. Or you better go to the doctor. And he didn't do it. I don't know why he refused. He thought, because it's so painful, I guess. So he's in terrible pain. So finally, on the 23rd, they have to take him to the emergency room, and they admit him. And he's not at the Christmas festivities with the family on the 24th or the 25th. And he didn't get out till like the 27th. And so, of course, all the families, we're so concerned. She's like, don't be. It's his own stupid fault.
And that was the kidney stone that ruined Christmas.
Boy, it did.
I lived to be 100.
It was a bad one. It was a bad one. I know that. Dr. Ed's on. I love it when Dr. Ed calls, and we haven't heard from him in a while. And you're talking about stretching the esophagus, Dr. Ed. What can you say about this?
Yeah, they've got a device. It's called a bougie, and it's sort of a weighted rubber type thing. It goes in the esophagus, and it's dilated at the end. It's got an expanded area, and they sometimes incrementally they start off at a smaller size, and then the next size up until they get it to the size. But there are a lot of people that have recurrent esophageal stricture. Sometimes it's due to reflux, and something. You're right. Sometimes they're congenital type things.
Yeah.
But it's pretty common, and they do come back once you're strictured, even if it's dilated. You can pretty much bet, especially if you don't follow the right diet and all that kind of thing, that it's going to be back at some point.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Any idea, Dr. Ed, when this technique was developed or invented?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I've been a doctor 35 years. I've known about it since I've been practicing medicine.
It sounds so primitive.
I know. It's totally new to me when he told me about it. But apparently fairly common, like you say.
And did he say it's called a bougie?
Yeah, it's a bougie.
Yeah, bougie.
Thank you, Dr.
Bad
Ed.
and bougie.
Dr. Ed knows. Thanks, Dr. Ed.
Dropping facts.
Always good to hear from you.
Dropping the science, as the kids say.
And I'll say this, not to tell tales on my brother-in-law, but he just refuses to change his diet. He knows that sweet tea and Coca-Cola hurts his kidney stones, and I told you he's the guy that loves the Bojangles and a Pepsi every time he goes in every morning. He loves a Bojangles and a Pepsi.
He can't stop
himself, and he's like, I'll get kidney stones till I die, but I'm not giving this up. By golly, I just can't do it. John, you're talking about esophageal stretching, which is what everybody's talking about today. Go ahead.
Hey, I've had mine stretched 4 times. And I'm going to mispronounce the disease, but it's eosinophilic myetosis or myetitis, something to that effect. And I've had it done every time I've had a colonoscopy.
So get you both ends.
Yes, and the old joke is make sure you do my esophagus first.
It's meet you in the middle.
It's quality humor. It's quality medical humor.
But, meet me in the middle. But but the condition gets so bad with me, I can't even swallow water. It's Lord. A constriction, and they go in and like the previous guy said, they just go in and balloon it, dilate it, and I'm good for about 2 to 3 years.
Okay. That may be the case with my brother-in-law. I felt like he was about a yearly, and he knows, like you just said, he knows when he's like, oh boy, it's getting bad, Like you said, trouble swallowing.
Yep.
Terrible.
Well, I'm sorry you have to deal with that.
Yeah, and hey, let me ask you this, John. Have you tried to change your diet or anything to try and get away from that?
No, but it kind of runs in the family, and chicken seems to aggravate it.
Well, I'm sorry, because chicken is
that's Kelly's favorite meat.
Thank you so much, John. We appreciate the phone call. What a share. Here it is. That's what we're about here, is sharing our lives and telling our stories and so forth.